Hey people, today we're going to be reading Chapter 11 of I Survived the Bombing of Pearl Harbor, 1941, by Lauren Tarshis. Chapter 11. In an instant, a bomb exploded on the runway. A man disappeared in a blaze of flames and black smoke. Danny and Mac and both guards hit the ground hard. Mac came over and shielded Danny's head and shoulders with his body. He waited for a lull in the explosions, and then he scrambled to his feet. He grabbed Danny's hand, yanking him up. "We need to get out of here," he shouted to the guards. "We need to find cover." Turning to Danny, Mac yelled, "Come on." Mac held Danny's hand tight as they ran. "Keep your head down." But where could they go? Bombs were exploding all around them. Boom! A truck exploded. Boom! 3 men fell to the ground. A plane flew low. Pum, 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 pum. A spray of bullets ripped apart a car. Soldiers were crouched behind the bushes and under cars. Some had small handguns and were firing uselessly into the sky. One soldier threw rocks. Danny couldn't believe it. Did they really think that would stop the planes? But he understood, too. There was nothing they could do. Mac dropped Annie behind what was left of a huge airplane hangar. Through the enormous holes in the wall, Danny saw U.S. bomber planes shattered and burning, and in the lawn behind the hangars, bombs had blown craters into the grass. Mac pushed Danny in one of them and jumped in after him. "Get down!" Mac said. Danny curled up against the dirt wall, and Mac crouched next to him, shielding Danny with his body. Men shouted all around them. "He's hit! Watch out! We need help! They're coming in low!" Danny pressed his head against the side of the hole. Mac held him tight. "It'll all be over soon," Mac said. But the planes kept coming. Danny peered up, knowing he'd never forget the sight of those planes. They were small and gray, like killer birds. A whistling sound cut through the air, and then kaboom! Dirt, rocks, and metal rained down on them. Something sharp stabbed Danny in the calf. He reached around and pulled out a small piece of metal, tossing it behind him. Danny closed his eyes tight, praying for the attack to stop. Suddenly he thought of Finn. He could almost feel that Finn was with him there, telling him to be brave. The feeling was so powerful it filled Danny's entire body. And finally the thunderstorm stopped. The attack was over. The roar of planes was replaced by the shouts of men. Danny turned and Mac fell back, his eyes dazed. "I'm hit," he rasped. "My back. I think it's bad." Danny looked at Mac's back. His stomach heaved as he saw a jagged wound, and more blood than he'd ever seen. Mac wouldn't last long, bleeding like this. A blond soldier appeared above the crater. His glasses were cracked and he had a gash on his face. "Everyone all right here?" he asked. "He's bleeding bad, sir," Danny said. The soldier shouted for help. Within seconds he had another man helping Danny lift Mac from the crater. Mac winced in pain as they pulled him onto the grass and laid him on his side. The soldier pressed against the wound with his bare hand, trying to stop the bleeding. "Hang on, sir," the blond soldier said. "Help is on the way." But Danny didn't see any help. "Are there ambulances?" Mac asked. "All the ambulances are out, sir." Mac nodded grimly. His jaw was clenched and his face was very pale. "What about the car? What about that car?" Danny asked, pointing to the red Studebaker parked next to the hangar. "That belongs to our colonel," the soldier said. Danny leaped up and rushed to the car. "Wait!" the soldier shouted, but Danny ignored him. The car had been spared any hits. It barely even had a scratch. Danny lifted the hood and started the engine. He easily found the 2 ignition wires Earl had shown him. "You never know when you're going to need to get somewhere quick," Earl had said with a smile. As usual, Earl had been right. Danny carefully touched the wires together. The engine spurted to life. Danny flung open the door and jumped inside. He drove the car around the holes and chunks of glass and metal, pulling up as close as he could as where Mac lay. The blonde soldier looked one worried, but Mac managed to smile. "Good work, kid," he said. "I won't ask where you learned to do that, but I'm darn glad you did." Danny and the soldier helped Mac into the car. "Go," the blonde soldier said. "The hospital's half a mile down on the right." "Wait," Mac said. "Are there any other guys who need help? We're not leaving until the car's full." 5 minutes later, there were 2 more wounded men in the car. One man had so much blood on his face that Danny couldn't tell what he looked like. The other was holding on to his leg like it might fall off. Danny drove as fast as he could to the hospital. The road was cratered and filled with burned wreckage. Once he had to get out to drag a huge piece of plank out of the road, but finally he made it. When he got to the hospital entrance, Danny blared the horn, signaling for help. While they waited for help, Danny turned and looked at Mac. Mac's eyes were fluttering. Danny wasn't sure what to do. And he reached over and grabbed Mac's hand. "Mac," he said. "What?" Mac rasped. He could only think of one thing to say. I'll make my mom have dinner with you." And he said, "When you get better." Danny saw a flicker of a smile on Mac's face. Outside the car, 2 orderlies rushed out with a stretcher. Behind them were 2 nurses. One of them was Ma.